people in government and politics from the executive branch down are not complete innocent people. But there are a lot of good men and women that have been just doing what they can to make a dollar out of nothing, but also do a lot of stuff you just don't see behind the scenes for communities, to
Right.
their communities, to help uplift them, to give back to mom and pops different funding and stores, to give different mom and pop stores and protections and more. But when I was sitting down and serving this time, it just, as I mentioned earlier, everybody think they know themselves. I finally got a chance to really know myself. I had a chance to really decompress and focus on rebuilding my body. When I went into prison, I was over 250 pounds,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
full of that was full of a lot of inflammation
Yeah.
and full of living that good, what we call D-boy life.
Yeah. Do you
Um,
remember your first thoughts on the first night in prison?
yeah, I do actually. I didn't. I had a moment where, so I had, up until that point, claustrophobia. I was claustrophobic from
Where did that come from?
a childhood trauma experience where,
Mm.
so I was the youngest of the generational men in my family of cousins, and I was the most fair skinned.
Yeah.
So
Oh
as you
yeah.
know,
We
growing up
picking on you.
you already know. You already know. It's sad to this. I mean, it's also, and that's a whole different topic. But
Yeah.
the lighter you are in the black family, you got to kind of prove yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they jumped on me a lot. But I don't know if we cuss on this
Man,
situation.
do whatever you need
Okay,
to do.
I whooped a lot of ass.
Yeah.
Had to really show my older cousins that ain't nothing sweet. Just because my skin fair don't mean that you
Yeah.
can't take away from what's behind this interior in terms
Yeah.
of this passion
So
and
you
who I am.
black as hell on the inside.
Yeah, more than that, the true warrior on the inside, and we have the same bloodline. We just got different skins, and I had to
Yeah.
show them a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because of that, since I was a problem, and it was hard for them to manage me one on one,
Yeah.
even though they was older, and I was the smallest, they gang up on me as initiation to put me in a locker
Yeah.
and shut the locker. And when we went to this went swimming for the summer at this specific park district, and they locked the locker. And here I am, a 5-year-old Dominic, 6-year-old Dominic, uh, screaming at the top of my lungs. They walked away. No one could hear me. No one else was in the locker room.
Yeah.
I couldn't move, and I'm just drilling the locker with all my might, screaming and kicking because I was panicking,
Yeah.
and my knuckles just opened up blood. And not to 30 minutes later, a lifeguard got some pliers
Cold
and
coders.
prior to cut it open, and I collapsed right then and there. But from that experience, when they put me in that locker, I had claustrophobia. So fast forward to the first night in prison, because it's not like I've been in and out of prison. I have never, up until that point, been arrested in my life. And here I am getting ready to serve this time. I didn't worry about what was inside. Like I don't fear no man to this day. I don't fear no human being at all. Like I just don't fear. I'm not wired to fear physically any other human. Um, and that's just the way I am. But I feared my mental health. I feared my mind was going to shut down because I didn't know what type of conditions I was going to experience. So
Gotcha.
that, to answer your question, was probably one of the most scariest moments for me because I just didn't know what was going to happen to my mental health
Gotcha.
at
Gotcha.
all. Yeah.
And how much time did they give you?
Yeah. So they end up giving me basically a 10-year sentence. 5 years of hard and 5 years of house arrest. And I ended up doing a few years and got 2 years off of my hard sentence, and I came home because I was eligible for what's called a drug program.
Yeah.
And then I came home and served another 2 years on house arrest, and then got the rest of that reduced from 3 years because I became a role model citizen. And my lawyer, we went back in front of the judge and paid all the restitution and was done with the feds after that. So I spent all my 20s dealing with the judicial system
Gotcha.
and getting back up on my feet. Yeah.
Gotcha. 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 So when in the midst of this do you sort of make the decision I'm going to change my diet, go away from meat products, that sort of thing?
It was in prison, and I remember like it was yesterday. I was again going back to your question about the fear. I had a moment in my cell, and I got on my knees. And I'm spiritual. I'm not religious, but I got on my knees in a prayer position to speak to um, the Most High and to ask for strength and guidance and what was I'm getting ready to face. I have no idea if I had to face some upcoming fights because in certain prisons and certain communities it could be considered gladiator school
Yeah.
by gang affiliation or not. Good thing is feds is usually be more chill, but still you have your moments.
Yeah.
But it was then that I had this moment when I was praying that first week where this childhood memory just, I was just trying to find the reason why I'm there, right? I was just trying to search for answers.
Yeah.
And everything, you know, pointed to this childhood memory from this prayer. I was receiving messaging from praying to when I was 8 years old. My mother, you know, she could only afford at that time to feed us things like pork chops and chicken wings. And I was always a picky eater. And because when, like most children, when you see flesh attached to the anatomy of the bone structure, you kind of like question it. And I was questioning it. Like I was that kid when you hand me chicken wings, I would like go around the veins and just pull from the whitest part of the flesh I could find because the dark flesh that was smothered in veins and carnage and more, I was just very taken back by it. Like this is something dead to
Yeah.
me. My fixation on that
Yeah.
because this is too much intact. So that memory while I was praying popped up at like a light bulb because in that moment it brought me back to when I was 8. I looked at those wings and looked at my mother and looked back at my arms and looked at those wings and looked at my mom and I pushed back and said, I'm not eating this no more.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? I was like, I'm not eating this no more. It's kind of hard to tell a single black mother that's struggling with multiple jobs and trying to keep some food on the table
Yeah.
that you are not finna eat this fried chicken or any food. And she gave me that look, well, you know, then you're not going to eat. That's what she told me. But I'm my mom's kid. And I said, well, then I'm not going to eat. So we had a standoff moment. And it's not like she can go to Google, what do I feed my kid? This is in the 80s.
Right.
And so she got sharp and thought about it. So she went eventually to a grocery store and bought a bunch of fish sticks.
Okay, got you.
And so she put two and two together in her head. Her mind was Google at that moment. She's like, you know what? It's the way it's presented to him.
Yeah.
He needs to be this flesh, this dead flesh needs to be masked because if he sees it attached to a piece of bone, he doesn't want it.
Yeah.
So she started feeding me fish sticks, and sure enough, like chicken nuggets and fish sticks that a lot of us grew up on in the 80s. You probably remember all kids going crazy for chicken McNuggets and all of that. I was okay with that. I just wasn't okay with the flesh to the bone. But that memory, Bobby, it came up in my head when I was praying that in that moment, that's when I discovered what's called karma. That if the universe shows you something, whether you're an 8-year-old Dominic or 80-year-old Dominic, if you don't follow through and see it through, it's going to come back to repay you in some type of capacity.
Right.
Whether it be through sickness, whether it be through your finances, through any form of things that you have a part of your lifestyle. It's important for you to see through what was happening. And karma and the universe spoke to me in that moment that I should have kept on following through. And this is why. This is my why on why I'm here to serve time, to better myself, to rebuild my body. And right then and there, I denounced me. I did a hard reset and created this mantra for myself that if it requires harm, then no, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And that was 23 years ago. And I haven't had meat since then, 23 years.
Wow. So would you say, because one of my perspective is prison is one of the most demeaning places you can be. I mean, you're literally in a lot of senses treated like an animal, especially if you were
Very much are. Yeah.
you know, to end up in solitary, you know?
I did end up in solitary. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for fighting. I was in there for exactly 40 nights and 40 days.
Okay.
Every prison had different security levels, regardless, federal or state. There's different security levels, but you are a piece of property.
Yep.
You're viewed as property of the government or property of the state. So to answer your question, yeah, you treat it like farm animals
Yeah.
specifically, and this is, although I'm here doing this interview with you, I'm here to live and tell you my experiences. The difference between me and farm animals, out of those over 50 billion animals being destroyed every single year, they're not here to live and thrive. They're
Yeah.
destroyed.
Yeah.
So I was able to go past that system because I wasn't slaughtered like they are,
Yeah.
specifically. So there's definitely some close experiences in relations to it. They obviously get treated much more worse, but I can tell you a lot of prisons and inmates do get treated inhumanely in a lot of different prison systems, for sure.